Imagine this. It's Sweden, 1990. In a quiet, snowy town, there's a man named Stur, but everyone calls him Stur. He's 40, broke, lonely, and completely obsessed with amphetamines. Now, Stur isn't some evil mastermind or a dangerous criminal. He's just a guy who wants to stay high. But he has one tiny problem. Drugs cost money, and he's got none. So one day, in a moment of what he must have thought was pure genius, he decides he's going to rob a bank. But here's the twist, he's going to do it dressed as Santa Claus. Why Santa? Honestly, who knows? Maybe he thought it would be disarming, make people laugh. Or maybe, just for a moment, he wanted to feel like someone else entirely. Anyway, he walks into this small Swedish bank, but his disguise is so laughably bad that the teller just stares at him and says, Stur, is that you? And just like that, it's an instant fail. He gets caught almost immediately. But instead of sending him to prison, the judge takes one look at him and thinks, this guy isn't right in the head. So, they send him to a psychiatric hospital for the criminally insane. And that, my friends, is where this bizarre story truly begins. At first, Stur absolutely hates the place. The walls are a depressing shade of gray. Every door is locked, and all the other patients seem lost in their own worlds. It feels like a prison. But then, he makes a discovery, a life-changing discovery. He realizes this hospital is practically swimming in prescription drugs. We're talking benzodiazepines, tranquilizers, sedatives, all. The stuff Stur loves. And the best part, they're completely free. Slowly but surely, he starts to actually enjoy it there. He has a warm bed, 3 meals a day, people to talk to, and an endless, free supply of the very thing that keeps him high. For the first time in years, he feels safe. He's found his twisted version of paradise. But then, after just 1 year, he gets news that makes his heart sink. He's about to be released. For most people, that would be amazing news. For Stur, it's a catastrophe. Out there, in the real world, he has nothing. No home, no friends, and most importantly, no drugs. His perfect setup is about to be destroyed. So, Stur comes up with an idea. A dark, twisted, and frankly, brilliant idea. He starts watching the other patients. He studies them, learning the hospital's social dynamics. And he realizes something crucial. The patients who stay the longest are the violent ones. The ones who've done truly terrible things. So, a light bulb goes off in his head. What if he just pretends to be one of them? At his very next therapy session, he sits down across from his psychiatrist, a woman who, as it turns out, is obsessed with uncovering childhood trauma. This is his chance. He starts weaving stories. He tells her he was abused by his parents, that he has a history of violence, that deep down, he's a dangerous man. The psychiatrist is fascinated. She's leaning in, taking notes, completely hooked. Seeing his opening, Stur decides to go for it. He leans in closer and drops the bombshell. He looks her right in the eye and says, I've killed someone. That one sentence changes everything. The hospital staff freezes. They start frantically digging through old cold cases. And, incredibly, one of the names Stur casually throws out belongs to a real missing persona child who had vanished over a decade ago. Suddenly, this middle-aged drug addict goes from being a petty thief to Sweden's most wanted man. Police are brought in. Investigators reopen dusty case files. And everyone, from the doctors to the detectives, wants to know more about Stur's so-called murders. But what nobody seems to realize is that he is making every single word up. From this point on, Stur goes all in. He starts having 3 therapy sessions a week, and each time he confesses to more and more heinous crimes. He claims he's killed men, women, children, people from all over Sweden. Every confession is a complete fabrication, stitched together from old newspaper articles he'd read, crime shows he'd seen, and random, disjointed memories. He even starts stealing ideas from books. He finds a copy of Asterisk, American Psycho Asterisk, in the hospital library, and begins incorporating its graphic details, into his own stories. His confessions become more violent, more disturbing, and more cinematic with each telling. And the doctors stay heated up. They hail him as a breakthrough patient. They genuinely believe they are uncovering the mind of a true serial killer. All the while, they keep feeding him mountains of medication to help him remember more details. Stur, who now insists on being called Thomas Quick, is living his dream. He's famous. He's constantly high on a cocktail of prescription drugs, and he's being treated like some kind of dark, twisted celebrity Sweden's very own Hannibal Lecter. But here's the craziest part. The police start believing him, too. It doesn't matter that none of his confessions actually match the real evidence. He'd get the murder weapon wrong, the location wrong, even the victim's hair color wrong. But every time investigators would point out a discrepancy, Stur would just calmly say, "Oh, that's because the trauma of it all made me forget the exact details." And they bought it. Every single time. Before long, he's confessed to a staggering 39 murders. He's eventually convicted of 8 of them, with absolutely zero physical evidence. The convictions are based solely on his words. For years, he's officially known as the most notorious serial killer in Swedish history. And yet, he has never actually killed a single person. But in 2001, everything changes. The hospital gets a new director, a no-nonsense doctor who isn't so easily impressed. He takes one look at Stur's massive file and asks a simple, devastating question. "Wait a minute. Why is this guy on so many drugs?" He immediately slashes Stur's medication, and almost instantly, the confessions stop. No more grisly details. No more newly remembered crimes. Just silence. When journalists come calling, eager for the next chapter in the Thomas Quick saga, Stur refuses to talk. He vanishes from the spotlight, and the world slowly begins to forget about him. Years later, in 2008, a determined journalist named Hans Rustam decides to reopen the case. Por eso bear 50,000 pages of therapy notes, police reports, and court transcripts. And what he finds is absolutely shocking. There is no evidence, not a single shred of proof tying Stur Thomas Quick to any of the murders. Everything, the entire case, was built on stories he told while he was completely drugged out of his mind. So Rustam goes to visit him in person. And there, sitting across from him, he's a tired, older Stur. He's no longer the notorious Thomas Quick. And finally, he tells the truth. He looks at the journalist and says, "I made it all up. For drugs and for attention." After decades behind locked doors, all 8 of Stur's murder convictions are overturned one by one. And in 2014, he is finally released, changing his name back to Sturberg. He walks out of the hospital a free man who fooled an entire country into believing he was a monster, when in reality, he was just a broken man, addicted to feeling seen. So what do you think? Was Stur a genius manipulator who played the system? Or just a lost soul who got trapped in a lie so big he couldn't escape? Because in the end, he didn't just fake being a serial killer. He became a one in the eyes of everyone who was so desperate to believe him. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as mind-bending as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the strangest corners of history. See you next time.